Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters. And there's a January morning in Haditha, Iraq that still stalks Rich Brown. An explosion set off by a 13-year-old boy. That day shook his faith in ways that Marine Corps never trained him for, but it also made clear that you can't just muscle through every wound. Since then, Rich's life has been about standing back up when trauma tries to keep you flat, about refusing to let the ugliest moments write your story's ending. Now, as the force behind Honor-Bound Fit and the Guide on 22 Ruck, Rich's mission is crystal clear. Disrupt the show, the slow bleed of purpose from veterans' lives and call bullshit on the cheap outs that leave us isolated, broken, or 6 feet under. He's not chasing cheap dopamine or empty validation. He's in the trenches, building real community, making damn sure the people around him are stronger because he's there. This one's for you if you've ever wondered what it really takes to pick up your guide on and lead again, even when the world says it's safer to just appear. So let's get into it. Rich, brother, welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate the welcome, man. That was a great introduction. I appreciate that.
Hey, man, it's your words. I just put them into something that makes sense. Let's dive right in, man. Where'd you grow up, and what inspires you to join the Marine Corps?
I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I spent equal time pretty much in Oregon and Montana. And then I was like you. I was a sophomore in high school when a bunch of assholes flew planes into the World Trade Center. And prior to that, my mom had given me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and that started giving me ideas about entrepreneurship and how I wanted to own my own cash printing machine instead of being a part of somebody else's. And so I thought I was going to be, a software engineer, own my own business, this kind of stuff. And then 9/11 changed my trajectory considerably.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm glad you got to read that book as early as you did, because I was in, God, how old was I? Like 34, 35 before I read it. And then kind of the next progression, right, is Cash Flow Quadrant. You want to read that one after you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, because then it all really makes sense. So you decided to join the Marines because of 9/11. Did you look at any other branches? Why the Marine Corps?
Actually, I had no intention of considering other branches. My mother insisted that I talk to other branches first, and she had to sign off because I was 17. So I appeased her, and as luck would have it, we went into the Navy recruiter first and sat down and gave him the spiel and said, look, I want to join the Marine Corps. She's making me talk to everybody else, et cetera, et cetera. And the Navy recruiter looked at my mom and said, let him join the Marine Corps. So it's pretty easy.
Why the Marines?
I had older role models who were Marines, and I'd read books, I'd watched movies, the whole thing, and that was. We get disconnected here.
No, I can hear you. I don't know why. Yeah, you're back.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Got a loose USB port, I think. Anyway, no, you grow up seeing the commercials and all that. Since then, it's funny. I've talked to my fellow gym owner, the co-founder of Honor-Bound Fit, and he's a little younger than I am. And where you and I saw the commercials growing up, he saw the footage from Iraq and Afghanistan to Slayer and Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, and those videos were their recruiting videos. You know what I mean? I think the military needs to look at that and reconsider how they're recruiting people nowadays.
Well, that's interesting that you're bringing that up, because I hadn't thought about that. It was just TV commercials for us, or on the off chance that you'd see one of those guys walking around your town in their uniform. And every Marine I always talk to, it's always got something to do with the uniforms. It usually has something to do with the uniforms. But I never thought about that, because I was too busy living, I was in that footage. You know what I mean? You were in that footage. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what did you want to do when you went in the Marine Corps? Were you like, I need to go get me some? I want to be an infantry guy? What did you end up doing?
I've told this story so many times. So I scored really well on the ASVAB. My recruiter basically said, you can do anything you want to do in the Marine Corps. I said, all right, I want to fly helicopters. He says, you're not going to fly helicopters. I said, well, why not? He said, because you're graduating high school with a 1.8 GPA. You have no intention of going to college. You've told me that you're going right after graduation and only officers get to fly. So you're not going to fly. I said, all right, well, I want to drive tanks then. And he's like, you're probably not going to drive tanks. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, this isn't the Army. It's the Marine Corps. We have 12 tanks. You're probably not going to get one. I'm just being realistic. I said, all right, well, if I can't do either of those two jobs, what can I do? And he said, well, why are you joining the Marine Corps? And I said, I don't want to have to sit down later in life and think that somebody's out there fighting for me and my family and my rights when I had the opportunity to do it for myself. And he said, if that's the reason, then your place is in the infantry. And I immediately called bullshit. I said, I think you're just trying to fill a quota. And he said, no, think about it. He said, think about it. If you're not in the infantry, in the military, then you're just supporting the infantry. So if that's the reason you want to join the military, then you might as well be the one kicking the door in. And so I went infantry. And then I got to School of Infantry after boot camp, and they started talking about, different specialties you can do in the infantry. And they talked about machine guns and mortars. And they said you could be an anti-tank assaultman, an 0351, and you can shoot rockets from your shoulder, and you can make doors where there aren't doors out of explosives. And I about had a panic attack trying to raise my own tire. And so I became an 0351. What they didn't tell us in that briefing is that, I don't know if they knew at the time, but somebody in Manpower knew that they were getting rid of the 0351s. So I re-enlisted as a Lance Corporal in E3, and I got out as a sergeant. And that's pretty unheard of, certainly unheard of today. But it had nothing to do with any discipline. I didn't get in trouble or anything like that. They were getting rid of my MOS. They didn't need higher ranking 0351s. They don't even use my weapon system anymore. I am so old.
We are kind of old, brother. It's
weird.
It's sitting here. I mean, I just turned 40 this year, and I'm like, man, this is. I'm the old guy now. And particularly just
next year,
just doing this work too, man. It's like, man, I've been out almost a decade in November, and it's like, how am I still so in touch with this whole broken system? Like, why are we still fucked up? You know what I mean? But like,
I try to. You asked the question, so I told you. But also at the same time, like, I try really hard. I make effort to not be that guy who identifies and like lives his entire life around 8 years, 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I'm more than just a veteran,
Yeah, and that's the big problem, right? Like, that's what this show is here to portray, is like, you don't need to hang on to that stuff. You got to close that chapter, right? Like, that chapter has to be
proud
closed.
of it. You can celebrate it.
You can
every my girlfriend and our daughters, everybody, they give me shit because every holiday in my house is Memorial Day, right? Christmas, we have a red, white, and blue tree. Every single holiday in my house is Memorial Day, but they can get over it. That's my life.
Oh man. So you become an 0351. They're killing your MOS. You reenlist as an E3, which is definitely unheard of. What did your career look like after that? What did you reenlist to? Did you stay in 0351? Did you just go back to a regular 0311?
No, yeah, I stayed as an 0351, but I transferred to Virginia to the basic school in Quantico, and I taught student lieutenants in Quantico for 4.5 years. About 6 to 8 months after I got to Quantico, I was diagnosed with traumatic brain injury from that explosion you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So I was told, like, look, we're not going to let you reenlist to go back to the infantry. You can finish out your contract here, but there's no way that we're going to let you go back overseas and receive information on the fly and have to repeat it back to people in a life or death situation, and knowing that you have this handicap. That was a hard pill to swallow at the time, but it, in a lot of ways, it did me a lot of favors, because again, I had 4.5 years at Quantico to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I had a consistent schedule. I knew when my classes were. I knew when I had weekends off and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, it was a hard pill to swallow, but in the long run, it was the best thing for me.
Yeah, I can imagine, because having 4.5 years to really think about, okay, well, they're not going to let me reenlist to do what I want to do. I'm probably not going to stay, right? Like, obviously, you don't want to do anything else. So you could start having that forward thinking. My situation was a lot different. I came home from Afghanistan, had a couple of surgeries. They told me I was done. You can't be an infantry guy anymore. Offered me the ability to reclass. I'm like, how am I going to be a senior non-commissioned officer and reclass to an MOS I know nothing about? Expected to be a good leader. You know what I mean? So I choose to get out. And then, they still use me and abuse me till the last minute because I'm an E6, a senior E6, right? Like they need leadership. All the turnover after the Afghanistan deployment, all the train up. And it's like, I never had time to think about what I was going to do on the other side of it. So how did you leverage that 4.5 years to prepare yourself to transition out of the Marine Corps?
Sort of opportunistically, right? So when I was stationed in Hawaii, I was a 19-year-old bouncer when on the little bit of off time that we had from the fleet, working at a bar that I was not old enough to drink in, and that's another long story. But when I got to Quantico, I had this thought process that was a great way to meet people. I have a consistent schedule now, so I went out and got another job out in town, and I started working the door at a local bar, and it didn't take long before I had a kind of a very different approach to doing nightlife security and being a bouncer. Um, and so it didn't take long for other bar owners and managers to approach me about, hey, I want you to come run the security team at my bar. Um, and that happened 2 or 3 times pretty quickly. And so I started to say, I'm not ready to leave here yet, but I could hire, train, schedule, and manage a team from a distance, and I'll come by and quality check them every once in a while. And so I started my first private security company. I had 2 years left in the Marine Corps, and I was running out of the barracks room, training and hiring and scheduling bouncers to work at different bars. And I was networking the bars together. So they'd scan IDs at the door. And if you got kicked out of one bar, you couldn't just wander down to the next one. They knew you were coming before you even got there. So it was cool. But then that turned into, so I had 2 years left in the Marine Corps when I started it. About a year before I got out, I had grown the business to about $1 million in sales a year. And then, I'm going through TAPS and looking at opportunity. And I'm still being groomed by a company called Dynacorp. They wanted me to go to Kenya and live in Kenya and teach the South Sudanese army how to fight. But they lost the civil war before IEAS, so that wasn't an option anymore. But I went to TAPS, and then the week after IEAS, I went to a job fair. But instead of looking for a job as a Marine getting out, I was actually hiring other Marines from the job fair.
That's really cool, man. That's awesome to hear. How did the Marine Corps view what you were doing? Your last 2 years, did they have an issue with it? Did they support you? Was it
No, not at all. They were actually really supportive. Like I said, it was a unit where you pretty much had weekends off. The schedule is known. I still showed up, did my job. I was one of the better teachers. Like I could teach anything at the basic school, whether it was hand-to-hand combat, leadership, tactics, whatever. I had everybody's respect, and I could teach anything I wanted to, and I taught it pretty well. And so people respect people who get shit done, right? Mm-hmm. And so as long as I was doing my job really well, they didn't care what I did outside of the military. Now, there was a time where, we had change command and you get a new commander in, whatever. And every once in a while, they would start to crack down and say, no, if somebody gets hurt, on their second job, then, it's going to be our problem. And so we're just going to restrict everybody from having a second job, et cetera. So that really hurt me, not just for me to work, but also for a lot of my employees, because a lot of my employees were my coworkers.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
Made things difficult.
So, man, having that in place, growing it to like $1 million in sales before you even get out, what did that do for you in the transition? I imagine you avoided a lot of the problems that I talk about here, though most of us experience in the transition, because you've already got a path forward. You're not going to this staff class and listening to them throw a bunch of resources at you, drink from the fire hose, not learn how to leverage those resources, hear the same priming that they give everybody. Oh, you're a veteran. Everybody's going to want to hire you. You've got GI Bill. Go get the degrees. You already had a clear runway in front of you. So how did that actually affect your transition out?
Well, it made it pretty smooth. And so I was very grateful for that. I will say, I just had different problems, right? So whereas people were coming to you and say, everyone's going to want to hire you because you're a veteran, they would come to me and say, we can't hire veterans. And we're doing all these things to make it so that people will hire veterans. And there's this big disconnect. Well, and I would routinely hear people say, oh, are you taking advantage of the tax credits for hiring veterans? No, and nobody is. And you know why? Because the way the law is written, in order to get those tax credits, the veteran has to be unemployed for like 6 to 9 months at least how many veterans who are sitting on their hands not doing dick for 6 months? Like that's not the type of people I'm hiring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately, it's kind of common now that they're sitting on their hands because they're applying to 400, 700, 1100 jobs and getting the same standard response back, which is out of control. I'm sure some of the onus has to fall on the veteran through that process, but also, yeah, I just did a post about this last week. Like 70% of jobs on job boards are fake. They're not real. They're ghost jobs. They were never. They're just. It's
well,
interesting.
they're either fake or the company just isn't. It's very easy to post a job, hire somebody, and then just never take the job posting down and just not ignore the emails and so on. And so I think ghost is probably the best word.
Yeah.
There you got to take a different approach, right? And most of these websites, whether it's Indeed or a lot of the USA jobs and so on, the companies are using AI or other scraping tools to find very specific keywords. And if you don't have that in your resume,
Yep.
you're not even going to pop up in the inbox,
Yep.
right? And so the best thing I think for a lot of those veterans to do, it's it's obviously not easy, but it's simple, right? Is you got to go out and meet people. You have to get outside of your apartment. Just send in resumes like it's your job. You got to get out and go meet people, find people who are in the industry you want to be in, and show them what you're capable of. Because if you go through the typical hiring chain, it's long and broken.
It's just crickets, really. Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. So when you get out, you're a million in sales. What's next for you? Like it's almost to me, it feels like you had the experience of reading Rich Dad Poor Dad when you were young. I assume you probably followed that up with some other readings that come from reading that book, Cash Flow Quadrant. Probably Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You're probably following down that vein throughout your career. So I would imagine if I was in your shoes, it would almost be like, man, I'm out of the Marines now. The gloves are off. I can really scale this business kind of thing, right?
Yes and no. I mean, I didn't have any disability rating for probably a year or two, and so I was solely living on my own income, and that can be really tricky when you know I work in the service industry. We started with bars and nightclubs. We scaled up to retail, government contractors. We were all over private security. And the number one problem I've had as a small business owner is getting your clients to pay their invoices. Cash flow kills.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started Accolade Security Network in 2010. And then in 2014, I had to seek out an acquisition because I had one of the bars that we provided security for closed down. They owed us $27,000. I'll never see that money. Over and over again, we had these cash flow issues where we're doing a lot of work, but we're not getting paid on it for a while. And without any financial backing, options were slim. And so I went through an acquisition process. I was acquired by Aero Security in 2014. I was with them for 6-7 years, something like that. And it became clear to me that we weren't moving in the same directions. I didn't want to do low paying retail security jobs. I wanted to do executive protection and corporate security for government contractors, et cetera. And that wasn't really their wheelhouse. So in 2020, I started Leftwich Global Protective Services, and our focus is on executive protection, which is essentially a pretentious word for saying bodyguards. But we do that, and we do some unarmed and armed guard work. We do a lot of workplace violence mitigation. But cash flow is always a problem with no financial backing.
Well, this is interesting because you said you started that executive protection company in 2020, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How?
It was late. It was technically it was late 2020, early 2021. I mean, with the COVID thing going on, it's very difficult to make new connections.
Yeah, 100%. My curiosity comes in, a lot of vets want to do something like this, some kind of, you got all the guys that want to, the gun guys that want to do, firearms training, executive protection is a really common one. How did you, I mean, obviously you had knowledge of how to navigate the landscape, but did you find that like it's definitely a competitive kind of market. However, I see new executive protection companies pop up all the time via Instagram or whatever from vets getting out, and seemingly on the surface, admittedly, I haven't dove in. They look like they're having success. Like there's not a such thing as too many out there. Is that true? Is it still possible to start and run a successful executive protection company?
Yes, it is possible. It has its own challenges. So the industry is very much who you know, and you can live and die on your reputation. Whether you're getting work depends entirely. It's one of those. If you've ever applied for a loan and they say, well, you don't have enough credit to get this loan, and you say, well, how do I get credit? So you take out loans, right? Like, well, okay, well, how do I get the credit if you won't give me the credit, right?
Yeah.
It can be the same way with executive protection. Nobody wants to give you a chance unless you go through some type of school and you meet somebody there who can give you an opportunity or whatever. But until you can show work that you've done, nobody typically wants to hire you, and it's even worse as a business, right? So it can be very who you know, and there are a couple of companies at the very top who have the vast majority of the contracts. And one of the easiest ways to get into it is to, first of all, start as an agent working for another company, build up a network, and then start subbing from those bigger contracts, because eventually you're going to get work because somebody has more work than they can handle and they need help with it, right?
Yeah.
That can be tricky too, because I think there are, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are a couple of companies who are borderline predatory in the fact that they will, they're big names, they're big, very successful businesses, and they will set you up for failure in order to put you out of business and take your employees from you. So it can be a rough industry in that way.
I love your answer to this question, because through this show, through all the work that I've been doing building this brand, there's three main things: identity, purpose, and then community/network that we lose as we transition out. And I've had this epiphany recently that like people are the key to your success in life, and we suck at networking when we get out. Nobody teaches, nobody talks on it. I even hate the word networking. It should be called relationship building, because that's really what it is. And you just touched on it. You're talking about an industry where it's who you know, but I think that's any industry, really, from the things that I do to the things that you do to the other people that have been on this show in very different verticals. It's truly about who they know. And we as vets, when we get out, we like to isolate. We tend to think that we're alone. Oh, yeah. We don't want to talk to people. We don't want to reach out and leverage people. What would your advice be for those vets that are like struggling to figure out how to network? I don't know how to teach that, because for some reason God thought it was great to give me the gift of just being able to build relationships with people. So I don't even know how to teach what I do. I have this gift to talk to people. What would you recommend that they do if they are in such a people-driven business where it is who you know? How do you make those connections?
We're a big fan of core values. And when I say we, I mean Honor Bound Fit. Me and my co-founder, Keith, we run Honor Bound Fit. We have 14 core values on our wall. One of them is just two words. It's the simplest, but I think it carries the most weight out of all of them, and that's be useful. If you lose two things when you get out of the military, and you can divide it however you want, but to me, it's two things. You lose tribe and you lose purpose when you get out of the military. Find a tribe immediately, whether it's guys that have gotten out at the same time that you can be friends with, et cetera, who understand what it is that you're struggling with and how to be a good support network. Or maybe it's a new gym, or it's a workplace, some people in your workplace who you can get along with and tolerate, et cetera. But be useful, right? Find a cause, find something that you can do, whether it's professionally or as a side hustle or just as a hobby that you can bring to other people. That also gives you the purpose side of things, right? If I'm being useful to other people, that gives me purpose. Yeah. That's part of why we call the nonprofit we're starting and the event that we do every year, Guide On 22, is because the symbolism behind the Guide On for us is twofold. One is it's the Guide On before modern communications, before we had radios. It was the first way. You just had flags on the battlefield, and it was the first way, the OG way of saying, hey, I'm here, I've got your six. but it also represented your little community, and it represented responsibility. If you've ever been to a change of command ceremony, they literally pass the guide on from one commander to the next, right? And so we want to tell veterans who, just like you're saying, it's the status quo. It's 100% acceptable to have this attitude that I'm going to get out of the military and I'm going to use my DD-214 as rolling paper, and I'm just going to smoke weed and play video games and collect disability and just sit on my ass for the rest of my life. That's not the guy who stood on the yellow footprints. That's not the man or woman who raised their hand to swear to defend the Constitution. I don't know where that mindset comes from, but it ain't from the military, and it ain't the person who joined to be a part of the military. So find that spirit again within inside of yourself and go find a cause to rally against. Pick up your own guide on and lead people and be a role model for your community. And you'll find tribe and purpose real quick.
Man, I love that answer so much because you just put the onus back on the veteran, and that's I think so many times they're looking for people to do it for them, and that's just not how it works. Like,
I mean, you can be broken, you can be whatever, but that's not the guy who joined the military.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, you've got executive protection, transition's going well for you. You see the need to get acquired. You see the need once you're acquired that's not the direction you want to go. You found another company. Now you have two other endeavors that you're after. How did Honor Bound Fit come about?
So Honor Bound Fit came about. My good friend Keith, we taught together at Quantico. He had always dreamed of starting a CrossFit gym. He went overseas, did a bunch of work as a contractor, put a bunch of money away to open his gym, got married, wife spends the money. You've heard this story before, right?
I probably lived this story before. Yeah.
Right. So got divorced, and shortly after his divorce, I started, he was losing that purpose again, and trying to reconnect to his tribe. And I just looked at him. I said, "When are we going to start your gym, bud?" And it started as like, "Oh, well, yeah, maybe I could, maybe we'll do something like that."
The excuses, they come, yeah.
Well, and he went to our local Black Rifle Coffee, not sponsored, but big fans. And the manager there, he was wearing a CrossFit hoodie from a place that he had been a certified trainer at. And she was looking for somebody to network with there at Black Rifle, and said, "Oh, your gym this, your gym that." And he came back to me and he's like, "I think I could do it by 4th of July." And I said, "All right, well, why not Memorial Day?" And so we started Honor Bound Fit in the parking lot of a Black Rifle Coffee on Memorial Day 2 years ago.
Hell yeah.
And we started just doing parking lot workouts, just free workouts at churches and parks, etc. Built up a small audience, and then we moved into our space in September of last year. So it's been about a year in this gym. Just got a little podcast studio built. But we wanted it to be a place for veterans. That's the funny part, right? Is we wanted a place where, we're right here outside of Quantico and a number of Air Force and Army bases, et cetera. So it'd be a nice little place for veterans to feel really comfortable. I have a Iraq style fake post, a security post on top of my office. We have a 65-foot American flag hanging in the back of our gym. It's very like vet bro, rah rah, et cetera, because we wanted it to be welcoming to the guys who would normally isolate, right?
Yeah, you just walk in and feel at home.
Exactly. But we joke about once a week, we look at each other and say, we're not a women's gym because it's like 95% female clients for some reason. So it's whatever. Yeah. We're happy. We're grateful.
Dude, it's so amazing because fitness is so important to just staying just healthy when you get out. It's also the first thing we abandon when we get out. It's like, oh, we're free. I don't have to do morning PT anymore. Yep. Not realizing what that was actually doing for you, because we all hated it. We were forced to do it, right? Like, I'm sure you probably hated PT as much as the next guy. Like, we're just like, why am I up at 4:30 to be in formation to do this for an hour every day? And then the next thing you know, my situation, like it's not a secret. I blew up to 321 pounds when I got out at my heaviest, right? Like, and I, out of breath, walking up two stairs, not even flights of stairs, but 2 stairs, like can't breathe when I bend over to tie my shoes kind of fat, right? And then the lying to yourself starts like, oh, I'm not that fat. Like, I still got it. Yeah, bullshit. You're a fucking fat ass and you got to change this. And then, now I weigh 216 pounds, so lost well over 100 pounds. And
Congratulations.
I feel, yeah, man, pretty incredible. But like fitness is so important, and I love that you have created a space that is so welcoming, even if it is 95% females. Like, good for you. Like, you've created this space to encourage our brothers and sisters to come in here and maintain that level of fitness and do it in your own way. I'm not crazy with my fitness. I mean, people would think I'm crazy. I walk like between 2 and 4 miles every morning as soon as I wake up, and I do it at like a 13:30 pace. And then I'm in the gym
Nice.
at least 4 times a week, lifting pretty heavy. You know what I mean? And so, I don't think it's that extreme. I've definitely done more extreme, but like I feel so much better, and it drives so much of what I do. So I love what you're doing with Otterbound Fit. And then, how did Guide on 22 come about?
Yeah, so I started listening to podcasts featuring Mike Easter. He's big into rucking, and I just started going down this rabbit hole of what rucking was, and we wanted to offer it as an option, a thing that you could do with Honor-Bound Fit, right? And so we do free rucks at least once a month, but it turned into, well, we should probably have something to work towards, right? And we're looking at the calendar and said, November 22nd is a Saturday. This was last year. I'm sorry, it was December 22nd was a Saturday. I remember from all of those suicide prevention classes in the Marine Corps, because I remember telling myself and saying out loud enough for officers to hear me, if I have to sit through one more suicide brief, I'm going to fucking kill myself. And they were always around the holidays, right? And so I remember from all that like Thanksgiving through New Year's is the peak of suicide season. Mm-hmm. And so I said, all right, well, let's do this. Let's go December 22nd. We'll do 22 pounds for 22 miles, and we'll try to get as many people to go with us as possible. And that'll be, our 22-mile ruck, and we'll work up towards that throughout the year. We'll progressively do longer and longer rucks. And so now we do a monthly ruck progression, and it's open to everybody. Anybody can come out and join us. You don't have to be a member of the gym or anything. But we start with like 6 miles in March, right? And then we work up about 3 miles every month. So this coming one is 15, next month is 18, and then we finish the year with our 22-mile Guide on 22.
Dude, I need to come up there for that. That's going to be...
You should. You absolutely should.
I can only imagine, like, what are you seeing with the Guide on 22 stuff? Do you see people show up in droves and start building relationships? Have you seen the change in these people from when they first show up to, like, what's going on now?
Well, let me put it this way, right? So we've done it once. This is our second coming up here in November. We started with 37 participants last year. We finished with 35. Those two who didn't make it to the end, they didn't make it to the end because they thought it was going to be going at like a Green Beret pace, and that we were going to be like jogging most of the way. They call it a trot. Yeah. But we go at 3 miles an hour. We're trying to make this acceptable to or approachable to everybody, right? We want everybody to be able to do it and complete it. And so they didn't schedule enough time. They didn't realize it was, it gets over like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They had somewhere to be at noon. And so around 10, they're like, we got to go, right? But the other 35 people, I'm an asshole, right? So I structured this in a way, I told everybody leading up to it, like, hey, it's 22 miles with 22 pounds. It's approachable and it's intimidating, but you can do it, and we'll show you how you can do it, right? And so everybody shows up, and what I didn't tell them is that about every hour, every 3 to 5 miles, we stop and let them refit their gear, eat snacks, drink water, all the stuff. But then I read them another citation or another story of a veteran who committed suicide, how it affected their families, how it affected their community. And suddenly the guys who said, I'm going to quit at 15 are looking around saying, all right, I can do another 3 fucking miles, right? And so all of us finished. And what we're doing this year, is I'm trying to up our game a little bit, is I'm not reading any stories this year. We're bringing out families from around the country who are going to tell their own veteran story.
I need to be there for this, man. This is incredible.
I hope you come, man. I hope you do.
When is it? I need to get it on the calendar.
It's November 22nd. It's the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
All right. Let me get. I'm gonna before we're done here today. I'm gonna add that to the calendar, and I'm gonna talk my business partner into coming up.
Hell yeah.
He's a former Ranger, so he'll be all about it too, right? Rucking is the thing that I was always better at rucking than I was running anyway, but I can only imagine how impactful. Uh, just what you said about reading the stories, but now you're bringing the families out. I actually toyed around with the idea of doing a podcast where we talk to veteran family members who have lost, a vet to suicide, and seeing how impactful that could be. And maybe this is the push that I needed. Maybe God put you in my path on this show today to like actually pursue that and like do something, because storytelling and all of that, it's so impactful, man. Just by me telling my story, starting this podcast, helping other vets tell their stories through transition, the impact that it has is incredible. So kudos to you and God on 22 and Honor Bound Fit and all the stuff that you're doing, Rich, is incredible.
I appreciate it, man. I will say you're probably doing it a better way than I am, in the sense that by doing it through a podcast, because I throughout the year I'm reaching out to families, and I've had success. We have families who are committed to the event, but it's a huge ask to ask a family, hey, not only do I want you to kind of relive the story and tell the story, I want you to do it while public speaking and tell 200 people about your situation. It's a big ask. I know what I'm asking people to do, and I tell them like, hey, I know, right? So I'm very, very grateful for the families who have stepped up.
Well, and I think something too, man, whether the families realize it or not, the reason I keep doing this show is because on some level it's cathartic for me as well. Like, we've never met before until this morning. We have similar life experience. We were sophomores in high school in 9/11. We joined for the same reason. We had the same MOS. Our paths probably crossed on some deployments. We're doing kind of the same advocacy kind of work. We care about our community. Like this is why I do this. Like it creates opportunity for me. It's cathartic for me. So maybe those families can come get closure by preventing someone else from doing what their family member did. You know what I mean? And maybe that it becomes cathartic for them.
There definitely is we're setting the stage for catharsis to happen, right? We're putting you in a tough situation. It's not an endurance race. It's not a huge, challenging thing, but it is 22 miles with 22 pounds, and it adds up real quick. And so it's tough. You're going to be tired. You're going to be sore, but it still doesn't feel as heavy as what that veteran was dealing with, right? And so it allows you to there's some pleasure and pain there, if that makes sense.
Well, and what I particularly love about just this format is like it's the antithesis of I'm going to do 22 push-ups for the 22 a day. It's like, what does that actually accomplish? You know what I mean? You've put an event together that has got some impact. How many people in that formation that are going to do the 22 mile could be considering taking their life? You know what I mean? Like you get to reach them through the impact of the stories that you read last year and the families that have agreed to come and tell their stories and the impact that it had on them and this, that, and the other. So, man, dude, I love what you're doing. I think it's amazing.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, dude. So what's next for Rich Brown and all the things that you have going on, man? Like, people think that I'm like busy, partnering with a plant medicine retreat, running an AI company, doing veteran advocacy in this podcast. I got Vet Socials coming up Saturday. I'll be at the University of Chicago for a speech the first week of October. Then over to Clear. What's that?
I said, who hurt you?
I know, right? I know. But people think I'm doing a lot, and I'm sitting here just in awe of all the things that you're doing, man. So what's next, dude?
Next, I think is next year, Guide on 22. As soon as the event is done, we're going to start turning the event itself into a nonprofit organization. We're going to start doing our own podcast sessions with veterans who have exited the military and found a worthwhile purpose in the civilian life, and whether that's leading a nonprofit or a for-profit business or whatever, we're going to allow them to tell their story while networking with organizations like Upward for Opportunity and stuff like that, and helping them get the word out. So essentially hopefully Imagine if the unsubscribed podcast was targeted specifically at those assholes sitting in taps, right? This is there is hope after service. This is how you find it. This is how you find a way to be useful, etc. That's what that podcast is going to be built around. And we're just going to find other ways to try to be useful in the community.
Yeah, let's do something together on that, brother, because that's
Yeah.
the direction I'm heading. I want these policymakers, like, hey, reach out to me because I got some shit for you and I've got solutions and I'm gonna keep making noise, and I know you don't like me saying the quiet parts out loud, but here's the deal: this is how we heal as a community, and you can't take that away from me. You can't tell me that I'm wrong, because the DMs, the emails, the messages, the people who come on this show who tell me, like, man, what you're doing, you have no idea the reach that it has. I imagine it's the same for you with Honor Bound Fit and Guide on 22. It's what actually keeps me doing all of this stuff. It's like, I don't see the impact that I'm making until I get those DMs or emails, but it's like, man, it's out there, and I'll never know the true scale of what it does.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, right? That's the dream.
Yeah, I could see God on 22 being like a nationwide thing once you guys turn into a nonprofit. Like each city, state leads their own 22 miles, and then before you know it, you've got 1 million people on that day rucking 22 miles. That'd be amazing, man.
That would be amazing. I don't know if we want to do every state. Maybe we do regional or something like that, because there's something about having that many people together that makes it feel more worthwhile and more connected and so on. And so I don't know if I'd want to dilute it to every state. Maybe we do it regionally, but I could definitely see having local leaders in every state in terms of just helping veterans find a purpose after service.
Yeah, man. Dude, as we close it up here, if you could just directly talk to these guys that are feeling lost, what would you want them to take away from our conversation today? What do you want them to just kind of open their eyes and see, moving forward through their own transitions?
One, you're not alone, right? There's a huge community out here. You can find it through all different types of avenues. But two, like I said, be useful, man. Find a purpose, find a worthwhile cause, and go rally against that cause like it's a battle. Take that type of energy into it, and find a way to lead and be a role model to others.
I love it, man. Dude, I want people to be able to reach out to you and find you, connect with you, participate in all the things you've got going on. So drop all your links, man, your socials, wherever. Where's the best place people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way is honorboundfit.com. You can sign up for Guide on 22 there. I'm going to find some awesome way to reward the person who travels the farthest for Guide on 22 this year. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we'll figure that out. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places.
I love it, man. Dude, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for telling your side of the story and enlightening us on all the things, resources that you have out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Rich Brown from Guide on 22, Honor Bound Fit, Executive Protection Specialist, probably a million other things. Please, if anything resonated with you, reach out to Rich. I'm sure that he would love to chat with you, help you out, find that purpose for you, and stay tuned, because we'll be back next week with another awesome episode. Take care, everybody. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.